Yo, realness, what up, bro?
What's up, brother? You can't see my face, but you can hear my voice as the avatar shows me.
Yeah, I'm gonna see I can get through this one because boy oh boy, I got that booster and it's been kicking my all day.
We'll boost this. We'll break it down. Nope, wrong thing.
Look, it's been a while. Wait a minute. Wait, where we at? Oh, there we go.
Houston, we have a problem.
Yes! What you gonna do? 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 What you gonna do?
Oh yeah.
I kid you not. StreamYard gets on my everlasting nerves.
I was wondering how you were going to respond to that.
Cause you look I'm used to being in the pocket, but that was too slow. I'd have got dragged. My dad would have said, "Hey, come on now, pick it up. You dragging the song." And I'm sitting there like that intro was supposed to be like what 30, 45 seconds. It was like a minute and a half.
Yeah, that just it started off slow, then it sped up, and I was like, "Let's see if this is even going to." I couldn't even get in my normal groove. I said, "Wait a minute, this is not going to fly, bro."
But here we are.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Wrestling Realm Now. I am the Real Dwayne Allen, and my host, Brian H. Water. What's up, brother? How you doing? You told me to get in the driver's seat because you was feeling it. It's the end of the year show. We got some things to review. I said, bro, listen, I got your back. We finna make this happen. I'm making it happen.
Yeah, I wasn't going to tell you that I wasn't feeling well because you would have said, sit down. But I know how you are. But then I would have had to wait because you want to be winning championships. You like Kobe Bryant. And I got to like buy my time. I got to see if I can sneak in. I got to see if I can get a couple of minutes, a couple hours.
I was feeling a little bad for you, man, because I know you got a little heat, brother, around the house. Yeah. you got a little heat, yeah, brother, around this time of year. But we're not going to get into that because we got stuff to review. Yeah.
Yeah, man. What a year's been. First and foremost, how you been?
Oh, man, busy. I hate it. I hate being busy. I hate being busy, but it's a necessary busy. So I'm blessed, man. God has brought us through, and yeah. I'm not ashamed to say so. So busy. That's the word I can say. It's been a fun year. It's been rough, but it's I'm not neglecting the things that have happened that have been negative, but what I'm doing is I'm choosing to embrace the things that are positive. That makes sense. So, that's the perspective from which I'm speaking upon. I'm not going to pretend like everything has been, all great. But yeah, man, that's just been busy.
Yeah, man. I want to start off now so I don't forget. Shout out to you for designing this shirt, this Wrestling for the Culture shirt, which you can get on WrestlingRoom.com. Shout out. I'm gonna give Terrence credit. He was the first person to buy it. As soon as it went on sale, boom, he bought it. Shout out to him for Trika. But then shout out to everybody else who bought shirts, man. I tell you, it's been a blessing. You wake up, you check Instagram, and somebody that shared their screenshot of their order. The good brother Banks had a birthday the other day, and Banks on Rest from the Banks vs. Davis podcast, not our other brother, Antonio Banks. But, he had a birthday and, he was rocking his anniversary shirt. You know what I mean? It's just with so many people. My brain, so I ain't even going try to go down there. I got booster brain right now. But
that's crazy. That's crazy because you can't say booster brain over the internet. It's funny because Antonio Banks just had a birthday not too long ago as well, so they kind of fit.
Yeah,
but yeah,
man. And so it's been cool. I met a lot of people. Last time we did a show, I met a lot of the community up in New York. Found out the wrestling realm. When you over in New York, brother, you can make it anywhere. Shout out to Sir Wilkins and those wrestling girls and Janelle from HR and Mr. Black from the Jobber Tears podcast. They had a Jobber Slam. And man, when I walked in there, just nothing but love. I've been saying this all the time, like the same thing I say with you and Corey and everybody else. Where y'all been all my life? I ain't
Man,
never wrestling fans.
I,
Wrestling
I,
fans is friends. Shout out to our good brother Hugh.
oh yeah, we never can fake good brother Hugh, the unofficial third member.
Mm-hmm. Oh shoot,
Man,
the way he was promoting the C3W, man.
yeah. Hugh Diddy's been locked in. Like he's really not even the unofficial. He's the unseen member. That's
Yeah,
probably
that's the
more
word.
appropriate. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
he's been with us since day one. There's no Salt and Pepper without Spinderella, the DJ. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
He gonna laugh when he hear this.
that's the perfect analogy, though.
Then he gonna cry in the car.
Yeah, he gonna cry when he get in the car. But it's the truth though. There is no Salt and Pepper without Spinderella. So that's where Hugh Diddy is to the wrestling realm. It's been that way since day one, man. But what I was gonna say was, man, I'm extremely happy and proud of our community and all that we have done this year and brought to the table, because just, as Black wrestling fans and identifying with that demographic, the many faces, man, just the colleagues, the friends, the family. I mean, there's so many, and I'm so happily overwhelmed to say that there's so many. And I'm just glad.
Like people.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I've, when we first came back to try to, say let's continue on, the brand expansion and getting out there more. That was one of the things that I was like, you know what, I'm always a quiet person. I'm always a private person, but getting out there and engaging with our colleagues and our friends has been one of the most important things for me to do now, albeit it's difficult during the pandemic, but just to be a part of the community itself, man, and just the love that's been shown to the Realm as well as the Realm. And you do a great job of showing love to so many other shows and content creators, man. I'm so proud to be a part of it. And I'm so glad to, have them in our corner and us to be in their corner. And for, I was so remiss that I had to miss that event, you know what I mean, in New York. But I mean, I'm definitely pushing to make, those events again. I know we got some global situations going on again, but when things open up back up, man, I mean, I cannot wait to really hit the streets.
Yeah, I mean, you was getting wins though. So, and it's for the kids and you being an inspiration to those young brothers out there that you're coaching. They couldn't have a better any other time I would have had that, but I'm like T.O. right now. I'm dropping the ball, aka my phone. You sat there and you being an inspiration to them. Not only do they have you as a coach, but you're one of the most positive people I know. So you being around them is important. And for the long term, for the long term benefit of their life. Because y'all don't just coach players, y'all helping groom the minds of young men. So I get it.
I mean,
I'm still gonna give you heat for it.
No, of course. I mean, it's like I said, always about priorities, always about giving back to the next generation and stuff like that, man. But you have been on the tear, man. I think we got to start giving people flowers while they you can still smell them, man. And the brand wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. And just your overall persistence to push and push and put. And really, it's not even almost a labor. It's just like your passion and your love for what we do and this business is second to none. So, like I said, brother, I appreciate you. I love you. Everything you bring to the table and, what we've done for the brand. Like I said, it's gone to new heights. And then even in your own personal success, like I said, but I always compare us to Outkast. Like, Outkast is two brothers that are very different, but very much the same. And can celebrate each other's successes outside of what we do. That's like, man, nah. My biggest thing was always the bigger Brian H. Waters is, the bigger our brand will always be. You know what I mean? So it's like we've all, not only we brothers, we've also had the best working relationship where it's like, man, it's never a dull moment.
Yeah.
It's never a day where I know that you're not in control of the situation. But congrats to you, man. You've done a lot. I think you should really, pat yourself on the key. Do we have a round of applause sound effect?
Yeah, it's on here. Was it cheer? That's the wrong one.
Yes! Yes!
I'm gonna always go Daniel Bryan, even though I don't care what Ric Flair says.
That's just Nate being Nate. We'll get to that. But yeah, man, so that's
But you know what the thing is, like, man, like I said, look back at this year. stepping out our comfort zone, right? So, you know, you was on Britt Water. Shout out to her. She just had a birthday.
Happy
You was-
birthday, Britt.
yeah, you was on her show, you know, and I'm sitting back like, man, I'm in mark out mode because it's like two great people, family, and you watching family discuss wrestling. You know what I mean? And it's like, like you said, we like outcasts. We don't always have to be crowding each other. You know, if I say, all right, yo, I'm gonna go to BlurCon, you can't make it. I got you. You know, shout out to Dr. D. Shout out to Blue and Jenna. You know, got a chance to meet them. You know, they saw us like, hey, we want y'all on the show. You know, and that was a blessing. Same with the Big Gold Belt podcast. And you know,
Right.
when
Yep.
in New York, a lot of people say, oh man, we gotta get the Realm. We gotta get the Realm. You know, it's coming next year. It's coming. We're gonna definitely figure some stuff out.
No, I definitely can't wait. I'm definitely like I think we'll both be in a better space to pencil that kind of stuff in. You know, as the brand grows and the more success we enjoy. So, like I said, we went on tour this year.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing we haven't done in a long time. Like I remember we set out to say, yo, we got to make towns. We got to get bookings. We got to show up people shows. And I think this is the most we've ever done together, you know, collectively as a brand.
Yeah.
So,
oh, definitely. You know, especially things is easier now too. You don't have to go to somebody's house or a studio. You know, it's just so much easier to just access it over the internet. You know,
that's the beauty of it. The quality of what we do in regards to studio stuff is so digital now. You know, back in the day, you probably could have done the same thing, but everything was so much more hardware involved.
Yeah.
But shout out to developing technology. Software has allowed us to, you know, put out quality content without being in the same space with each other. So
now let's talk wrestling.
All right. We just talked all that shop for about 12 minutes.
When you look back at this year, what's been the one thing that you've been most pleased with? Or what's been amongst your favorite thing on in wrestling on the major platforms and maybe even also on the indies?
Well, that's a loaded question. You know, that's
I know.
in wrestling. In wrestling is almost like 10 years. Like so much happens. The thing I probably am the most happiest about is probably I don't even know where to begin. I'll say this: it's an easy one, but just the rise of Roman Reigns, his success, the tribal chief, and where he is. I was never more happy to be wrong about something, you know. And Vince saw it before we did, and he put him there early, and he took all those bumps early because we're enjoying now what Vince saw a long time ago. So
one of my favorite questions is, would we have appreciated this Roman Reigns if we didn't get the previous one, you know, for lack of a better words, shoved down our throats? Like, let's just say they would have took him the easy route, right? They would have let him rise amongst the, you know, the mid card into the main event picture. You know, I don't want to just say, let's just say he started off at the tribal chief. I don't want to say that. I want to say, he starts off, you know, tag team champion, and he stays on the mid card with the IC and the US title, and then eventually goes to the WWE championship rather than 2015 going right after the WWE title. Would we have appreciated this Roman Reigns, or did we need it to happen the way it happened?
We needed to happen the way it happened because he went from being the most hated to the most loved thing in all professional wrestling. Because you got to remember, he was coming up in the year of the era of the indie darlings.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? CM Punk had risen and then left. You know, so to me there was a bigger embracing of the global independent superstar. You know, and you had Tyler Black, you know, coming into the mix. You had John Moxley coming into the mix. Those guys were portraying to be what we enjoyed later on down the line. But, you know, you got to remember Kevin Owens and Adam Cole and the Briscoes, Ring of Honor, New Japan, like all that stuff was buzzing. And they were still in the mindset of, well, WWE's for all the big guys. And sure, we love to be there and maybe get an IC title run at best, but they don't really usually, you know, geared towards our demographic or our style of professional wrestling. You know, Daniel Bryan was fighting for that one position, and it was like, man, there's no way in the world they're going to embrace all of us. And it became the exact opposite. You know, we were exposed to so much professional wrestling because guys were embracing the fact that, you know what, we don't have to go to WWE. We can make the most of what we have now. And we talk about guys that would eventually spearhead all elite wrestling. You know, you had guys like the Young Bucks that were just as content being independent guys.
Mhm.
You had guys like, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. You had guys like Tama Tonga. You had everybody in New Japan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You had AJ Styles trying to find his way. So I know I've kind of jumped over a couple of years, but during that era with Roman, it was like, man, he was a prototypical WWE guy,
Mhm.
and we were exposed to so much wrestling during that time with YouTube and Daily Motion and
Heck yeah.
access to New Japan and Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor was coming really back heavy to broadcast television.
Mhm.
It was in
Lucha
our backyard.
Underground.
Lucha Underground eventually will come into the mix, and then Impact will kind of morph and transform again and out. So we were getting exposed to so many wrestling superstars of tomorrow at that time. So, I don't see us appreciating Roman the same way because, like I said, he went from being hated to being the most cherished. So,
Yeah.
I think it needed to happen that way.
Got you. Anybody else stick out?
Wow. As far as best things that I enjoy happening,
Yeah.
oh man, like Edge. I enjoy Edge.
Oh.
Edge's. I enjoyed Edge's run. I don't want to say him coming back, but his run.
Mhm.
Edge's run. So much stuff happened in NXT. I don't know. It's a lot, man. There's just a lot. Like that's just to speak on WWE. Like it's just as far as everyone else is concerned, man. I will say I was glad to see so many of my favorites kind of find their footing after that first major release during the pandemic cuts.
I'll say this about Edge real quick.
Yeah.
He's smarter, and I was always an Edge fan, but he's like somebody who sat for almost 10 years or close to it, and he's come back. You see the psychology is unmatched, and it's to the point like everything he touched wasn't gold back in the early 2010s or the late 2000s, right? But now it's
Right.
everything from Seth Rollins, to Miz. I mean, everything he touches gold. And even when you watch him work, it's not about trying to have all these crazy moves. It's the psychology of him in the ring. It's been a sight to see.
I think Edge just gets it. I think he's learned when you can't physically go in there and do the same things that you used to do to kind of get that reaction to get over, you have to go into what makes you an entertainer, what makes you a performer. And I think him being in acting for as long as he has been, he's picked up on so much. He knows how to invoke emotion with his facials, his storytelling, his presentation, how he speaks, how to address things, when to snap, when to show old Edge, when to show a new side of Edge, when to embrace, all these different things that it's just like, man, he's so much more polished and everything he done is so calculated and precise, and he takes his time. And it's like, man, if you want to be one of the top guys in this business, that's someone you should look at and study. And I think it's that what makes him versatile.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes him a constant main event draw in everything that he does. So Edge's run has been everything he has touched, like you said, has turned to gold. It's crazy, but I want to say more stuff. Like I give you more stuff because, like I said, it's easy to pinpoint the stuff that happened, recently. Excuse me, but we're talking about a whole year, like Daniel Bryan versus Kenny Omega.
And the mark's gonna tell you Bryan Danielson.
No, Daniel Bryan. I don't care. I don't like. Okay, like anybody's listening to the show, I wish you would say something to me about it. Like y'all know me. I don't care about any of that. It's Daniel Bryan. So I know what his name is. I called him Daniel Bryan. Yeah, that just an absolute classic. Didn't go anywhere, but absolute classic. That was fun. I would just say Daniel Bryan's career in general.
Yeah.
I respect him betting on himself. I respect him leaving the right way, and I respect his new approach to his run that he's having in AEW, which I think has been absolutely excellent. So
must see TV. I wasn't the biggest Adam Page guy, right?
Mhm.
But when you put Bryan Danielson,
Daniel Bryan.
when you put them on the TV together, that's I'm locked in. You know what I mean? And that is the epitome. And I know this is his first run, so we kind of got to get used to it.
Mhm.
But when you see them on the screen together,
Mhm.
it's like, all right, what's he going to say? And he's just again the psychology, and even the match. I can understand both ways why some people hate both of them being draws. Some people don't like it. I was watching AEW as we record Wednesday evening, and I was watching, and Nyla Rose lost to Ruby Soho, right? And I was too tired. I was too tired to tweet, but I wanted to say Tony Khan, former WWE wrestlers can lose. You do know that, right? Because it's like all these people that come in and none of them have been pinned yet. Adam Cole, Ruby Soho, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, right? I'm like, you can beat them.
Right.
But and I don't know, what's going on. Obviously, I'm not a booker, but like I said, with him, it's just watching him. He's making, for the average wrestling fan, he's making a must-see TV. Unfortunately for them, they aren't bringing in all of WWE's audience. I think Eric Bischoff said you want to be able to take some of them, right, and bring them to your show. That's what they did with when the NWO came over, right?
Well, let's just go there then.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's just go there. Like that's been one more thing before I say positive about AEW before I absolutely trash it. CM Punk's return was very heartfelt and memorable, exciting. I really enjoyed that. That was a great for wrestling moment. That was one of the things I like about it. So now to the negative. One thing. Yep, that's right. The buzzers are circling. AEW has perplexed me in a large and very deceiving way. Ooh. Right? Because you would think at this point they have enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let me be the first one to say I think AEW is it's a great alternative, right?
Correct.
It's a different style of professional wrestling. There's room for that style. There's room, and they're proving with their live shows, pay-per-view sales, and merchandise, all this stuff, that there's a large enough audience for it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. The
problem is that we talk about all the time. Professional wrestling is a niche audience.
Boom.
And it will always be a niche audience. All AEW has proven is that the pro wrestling fan base is large. And it's larger than it's ever been, which is a good thing, right? Mm-hmm. It's just not really competing with sports entertainment on a global perspective, on a global scale. On a global scale. And you say, well, how? Because blah, 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 blah. Wrestling fans will argue to their faces are blue about why AEW is greater than WWE. That's why it's a wrestling conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you want to have a serious conversation about WWE on a scale, you got to go on ESPN. That's a sports conversation. When you can take professional wrestling and you bring it to the modern day sports world, that's where you get sports entertainment from. Mm-hmm. When you can take professional wrestling and take it to box office draws and television shows and cartoons, when sports meets entertainment, you have sports entertainment. That's the audience that widely regards WWE as wrestling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And AEW is not comfortable where they are. Like Tony Khan wants to be in the same space with WWE,
right?
And the reality is that he's not. He has his own lane right now. He has the wrestling audience because the diehards, they're looking for something different, edgier, more mat-based, which is great because we need that. He's still not satisfied. And I think Bischoff kind of alluded to it because he's like, yo, well, back in the day, WCW and WWF were in the same space. They were both in the space of entertainment because WCW was financially doing better than WWF at one point.
Mm-hmm. Kids that today will never really understand what it was like to see WCW merchandise in the stores.
Excuse me. Well, that's the biggest thing, though. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were in the same space. They were fighting for the same audience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and things were different back then. You know, how we consume television, media, that stuff plays a major part. Like, we've been overexposed to professional wrestling nowadays because it's not special like it used to be. We have wrestling at the tip of our fingers whenever we want it. Versus back in the day, we appreciated it so much more because you only had it when they gave it to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Even if you did, you know, have a tape or DVD, you had to take it when they gave it to you. Mondays, Sundays, Thursdays, Wednesdays, whenever, right? Nowadays, no. You can watch wrestling every day of the week. When I was young, anything wrestling related, I jumped on it because it was all that I had.
Yep.
When ESPN Classic used to play the Golden Age of Wrestling, I didn't know nothing about what I was watching, but I watched it because it was wrestling. Mm-hmm. When MCW used to play the little Rage TV playback, it was just a loop of random clips from MCW, Maryland Championship Wrestling. I watched it because it was wrestling. It's all that I had. And when the Secrets of Pro Wrestling came on Fox on a Sunday evening, I watched it because it was pro wrestling.
If it was a news story, just something as simple as a news story about wrestling, you was locked in.
If you knew somebody was going to be, like you said, on Jay Leno, Triple H, Rock, Taker, anybody, you watch it because it was wrestling. Nowadays, I don't have to watch professional wrestling. I have it at my own disposal, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can be choosy. I can fast forward. I can rewind. I don't have to take it. And AEW's in a space now where they're like, we're trying to carve into it. We're trying to prove to the world. We've talked about this 1,000 times, and I'll say it openly and publicly. Tony Khan's mission is to prove that professional wrestling is just as popular as sports entertainment. And the reality is it's not. Mm-hmm. But he's like, no, I'm going to prove it because we're going to take a pro wrestling product and we're going to take it to the masses. And I'm like, no, all you're going to do is just expand the wrestling audience with wrestling fans. That's not the money you're looking for. That's not the crossover you're looking for. Don't get me wrong. They've done a lot. And I know Eric Bischoff is offended because he's like, bro, you keep comparing me like we failed because we messed up. But it's like, man, we were at least in that space. We were in the same conversation. You guys aren't even in that conversation yet. You know, AEW is, as long as it's professional wrestling, it doesn't have that crossover appeal to the average fan. And I think that bothers Tony Khan, in all honesty. And I think that's why AEW is kind of floating right now. Like I sent you the thing earlier with the ratings, and it's like Eric Bischoff has been very critical of AEW because they keep taking shots at him and like, oh yeah, we're doing better than WCW did.
All you had to do is leave him alone.
And that because Eric Bischoff was very supportive of AEW and what it stood for. Mm-hmm. He's like, look, stick to what you do well and just grow naturally. But they're like, nah, we're like WCW, but we're gonna do better. We're not gonna make their mistakes. And Bischoff was like, bro, ho. Yeah, y'all taking shots at me like I just failed the company. And he's like, you guys are not even in that conversation that I was in the back of the day. Because at the end of the day, the reality is WCW is still the most successful wrestling company outside of anything dealing with Titan Sports. Mm-hmm. Like in the world, still to this day. And WCW hasn't been in operation since 2001. You know? I look at AEW and they have a lot of good things about what they do. I can't really get through a show, but I've seen, I watch it like I used to watch Impact. If I hear about something, I'll check it out. I don't have to watch the show. I can just watch the highlights.
Mm-hmm. That's what YouTube is for. And Instagram.
Because half the time the show's not worth watching to me. Not the whole show. I don't have to watch it. Right? Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, but it's wrestling. I know you love wrestling. Yeah, I love wrestling, but I've loved wrestling since I was a kid, and I have it everywhere. Like, I don't have to watch it. You know what I mean? I love wrestling, but I don't love it that much to the point where I have to watch it. Like, I don't have to. I don't have to. I can keep up with it all day because I have social media. I have YouTube. I can check up on stuff. If I want to go back and watch, if something's that good, Sting and Darby Allin, Sting gets in the ring, comes out his clothes, he's looking jacked, 60 years old. I watched that match. Mm-hmm. Afterwards, did I watch anything after that? I tried to, really couldn't get into it, so I changed it. You know? Yep. And I think there's a lot of wrestling fans that are like that. Like, yeah, they like it. I love AEW, what it does. I'm not a fan of the product that much because it's like Impact. People are like, well, why don't you like TNA because it's wrestling? No, I don't have to watch it. Like, I don't have to like it. Like, I'm not watching just because it's something different. I'm not that mad at wrestling. Because if wrestling's that bad and I don't like it, I just won't watch it. I got, we had the network. We got stupid Peacock now. But even with Stupid Peacock, I still can go back and watch stuff that I actually did enjoy. You see what I'm saying? So as a wrestling fan, I know what competition looks like because I lived in it. You're not going to tell me this is competition because I saw what real competition really was.
Yeah.
You know, and we the conversation always goes to needle movers, and Roman Reigns and CM Punk, and it's like, man,
how about that shirt though?
First of all, the shirt was dope. I said that's tough. So whoever came up with that is tough. But Roman Reigns is a needle mover. He is becoming almost untouchable at this point. He's the biggest thing in all of professional wrestling across the board by bar none. And I'm talking Daniel Bryan. I'm talking Kenny Omega. I'm talking Jon Moxley. I'm talking anything. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing. Like he's on a different level. There's Roman Reigns. Then there's WWE. Then there's everything else. And it's like I'm nervous now because I'm like, well, what is AEW supposed to do now? Because if CM Punk and Daniel Bryan are not the ones that's pushing, what's going to make anybody crack? How are you going to get an extra 300,000 people to watch your product every night? I'm nervous now because you have the biggest ones that are available. Yep. So I'm like, yo, if Randy Orton or John Cena or Roman Reigns doesn't jump ship, you might be in trouble. See, when Hogan and Savage jumped ship, they were bona fide global superstars. They weren't indie darlings. They weren't niche guys.
Yep.
They were global superstars. They were older, and it was the same mentality. Well, we've lived with these guys for the last 5, 6, 7, 10 years. So it's no rush for me to watch him in WCW. It's no rush for me to watch Hogan match up with Flair. It's no rush for me to watch him wrestle the Wizard. You know what I mean? Because you had enough of Hulk Hogan growing up where you didn't feel like you missed out on anything. I'm not in a rush. Now, if you loved Hogan, of course you watched it because you loved Hogan. But the loved Hogan audience was not going to save WCW because it was a niche audience, right?
Right.
Which is why he had to do something different. And he brought in a completely new audience with the NWO. That was territory he didn't even embark on. And that man literally moonwalked into the next generation. He went from being a man in the 80s and to be the man all the way into the 90s. Like the late 90s. And it's like, man, Hogan had another global run. And I mean global, like I'm talking big time superstar. I'm talking about the guy. I'm talking like big money. Hogan was that old and had another run. Like that's rare. That's what makes Hogan so special at the end of the day.
That's why he's my GOAT, because of the fact that he was able to at one point be the biggest babyface and be the biggest heel. And no matter how much people love Ric Flair, and I get it, Flair wasn't able to do that.
But when we talk about a business and a product standpoint, like there's no matching the numbers. Let's be honest, because the numbers that he broke records as Say Your Prayers, Eat Your Vitamins, and he broke records and numbers with Hollywood Says you fans can stick it. Like, come on, man, the numbers don't lie, right? That's competition. So, like I said, as we move on to the next topic, AEW in 21. Has been the biggest, not disappointment, but I guess the biggest question mark. Because I'm like, wait a minute, they fizzled numbers wise. I'm not, everybody likes the product, and you can, to each his own. Because wrestling fans, it's very subjective and objective when it comes to, what you like, what you don't like. And that's fair. Everybody likes things, but the numbers are going to say something otherwise. The numbers ultimately determine your success. WWF won the ratings war because of the numbers. Now, for a whole year before that, what did they say? Oh, we had a better show, but there's no proof of it until they actually, by week 84, And so it's just like, man, I don't know what they have to do to really make people say, I want to watch this. And it's just different. Do you grow your wrestling audience? Because it's always going to be split because people love wrestling, right? There's never going to be full-fledged AEW fans that are not fans of WWE. Just like it wasn't full-fledged WCW. There were people on one side, there were people on the other side, there was always people in the middle. But the people in the middle was always the biggest audience.
Yeah.
Right? The people in the middle was the deciding factor. Right? For Eric Bischoff to say something like, man, y'all got the same 875,000 viewers every week, and you're not going any further than that, means that whatever you're doing, it's not working. Ouch. So what do you think is the issue? Because I know you'll give AEW more of a chance. If I hear about something on AEW, I'll go and watch it, right? But I'm not, all right, let me turn the show on and see what I can't. It's difficult for me to get through. Excuse me. It was the same with Impact. You know what I mean? I never Even when they had everybody, Christian and Angle and Nash, I could never get through a show. I can go back now and enjoy matches because I appreciate it, and I do love professional wrestling. I can go back and enjoy the match, but I'm like, I wouldn't dare sit here and watch or pay for this pay-per-view.
Well, the rosters are too big, right? So you got, first of all, they overexposed. You got AEW Dark Elevation, AEW Dark, AEW Dynamite, and then you have AEW Rampage, right? As we said time and time again, none of the shows really look different.
Right.
Then, you know, so it's like, okay, so I should be able to tell you the difference, right? So back in the day, just for the people who don't know, Velocity, you know, that was where your jobbers, your lower card enhancer talent, that's where they wrestle, right?
Yeah.
That's where people, if you wanted to get somebody over, you know, if you was working on them, you're trying to see, like, test them out, they started on Velocity. It's just like in the video games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then, you know, before it was Shotgun Saturday, then you had Sunday Night Heat. Now, first Sunday Night Heat was really a preview to Raw, but once SmackDown came along, it was the same thing, kind of an enhancer talent, but it was more, you know, you might see the IC champion,
or it was also the lead into the pay-per-view.
Yeah, yep, definitely the lead into the pay-per-view, right? Raw was Raw, SmackDown was SmackDown, but it was a clear, distinct difference. Even before they had separated the shows, AEW Rampage and Dynamite, it's not really a difference. And then you have all these people like Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela, right? Those are two people that was signed from the jump. And you're taking out their story on AEW Dark, right? And you know, it's like I forgot about that. And just because somebody becomes available, don't mean you got to go get them. Kyle O'Reilly is all elite now. So every time now, when I see somebody has that graphic, I'm like, somebody else moving down the chain. You know, instead of being very clear, okay, this is our mid-carders, these are our main eventers. And I think if they do that, it's easier to digest. And, you know, Friday night is a death slot. We learned that in our audience and ratings programming. Shout out to Dr. Adamo.
You still remember the name of the course. That's how far we moved out yet. I don't even remember. I was going to say my TV class we took.
Well, I tagged him because we was talking about it on Mac Mania. And I tagged him, and you know, he said one of the reasons he stayed on Facebook is to see how good his students are doing. But you know, we learned Friday night is the death slot for television. So, you know, we was even, you know, wrestling WWE fans had concerns when Fox said, okay, we putting, you know, SmackDown Live on Friday. And
we were like, uh-oh.
Yep. But guess what? They have the Tribal Chief.
There you go.
The television. They have Sasha Banks. They have Charlotte Flair. They got heavy hitters.
They got needle movers.
Yeah, they don't have any needle movers. Sure, you know, Rampage did the whole thing with CM Punk. That was one episode, you know.
That's the problem. You got to follow that.
Yeah, and then that's the thing, you know. So that's what makes it really difficult to see them move along, you know. And that's why I mean, I want them to be successful. Nobody wants them to fail. It's wrestling, for goodness sake. You know, it's an opportunity for people to work. It's an opportunity for wrestlers to go out and earn a living, you know. But I do think, you know, Tony Khan need to slow down the pen, you know, and, you know, because like Vince McMahon, you know, yeah, there was a massive release. But, you know, when you really look at it, I don't know. I always said this. Nick Khan know what he's doing. So if anybody, I want to give him my bank account and take over my finances. I say, all right, cool. You know, because people mad like, oh, they in the black and they releasing people. Well, it's a business decision. He know what he's doing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like they record profits. Well, you want to make more money, as much money as possible.
Especially during these times. They trying to get back on track.
No, I'm sorry about the people getting released. Never wish that on anybody.
Right.
But that's why, you know, it's just crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I don't even think AEW have the answers for AEW.
Well, let's take it a step further, because that's what we do. You know, let's in all fairness, let's try to educate. Let's be needle movers in regards to the conversation. Is there a balance between the business decision of taking what's hot in the moment, or the reality is taking somebody that's better than what you already have, despite them being an original? Or do you still stick with the story of, oh, we're going to be loyal to those that were here first because blase, 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 blase? Because at the end of the day, Tony Khan talks about his wrestling business, but at the end of the day, he has a business. You can love your wrestlers and be different, and we're this. Yeah, that's what the boys and the girls in the back enjoy. But then again, what happens when your company takes a hit because the ones that you're going to bat for, the reality are they're just not moving the needle for you financially. You know, now in WCW, they had that issue. You know what I mean? But they at least had some type of global superstar. They had Ric Flair, and then eventually they had Sting. You know, and WCW should have shut down a long time ago. But Ted Turner was such a diehard wrestling fan, and he was so loyal to wrestling for what it had done for his cable, because professional wrestling kind of put his cable network on the map. You know, he spent those years in the red. You know, when he had control of the company to do that. Now, is it one of the situations? Do you say, okay, well, we got to wait long enough for somebody that we have on this roster to become a superstar? And we talking about crossover global appeal. Sting was crossover global appeal. Heel Hogan, crossover global appeal. Goldberg, crossover global appeal. Eventually, Booker T, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall. You know what I mean? There was something that was there. There was a concept. There was this big bang that gave rebirth to make people who weren't fans or were casual fans and turn into wrestling fans. Because there's people to these days that are casual folks say, oh, I never watched wrestling, but I do remember when I did, and it's The Rock and Austin. I say, yeah, right, because at that moment, you weren't even worried about being a wrestling fan. You were just a fan of what you were watching in the first place, and that's that global audience. That's the audience that's going to pay for the pay-per-view, because they don't know nothing about live streams. They just want to see their favorite person do what they do. You know, they want to see somebody they can relate to, like a Stone Cold Steve Austin. There were these characters. There was this depth to the product. Like, since when is you don't realize how deep professional wrestling is until you live in 2021 and you have no depth in professional wrestling. Right? And I'm gonna tell you why. Because the one guy that we love the most right now has the most depth as a character. The tribal chief. That whole run has so much depth to it. Right? It's deep. It's family. It goes back to culture. It goes back to heel reign. Like, it's so much to it. Back in the day, it was 5 or 6 of those in both companies.
Yep.
And at one point, WCW was doing it better than WWF. Right? I'm in AEW. Like, look, you give me anything with the Elite, I'm okay with it. I love it. I don't care if they hog the show, because they're sports entertainers. They get it. MJF, sure, you know, he's got something there. Y2J, I've not been invested in AEW since the battle between the Elite and the Inner Circle.
Wow.
Because it had depth to it. I was excited to see what was going on. Like, I was turning to it every week to say, okay, I got to see what happens. And then Matt Hardy came in. I was like, okay, I didn't want him to leave, and he's one of my favorites, so I want to see what he does. And once that ended, I was like, well, where do we go from here?
Yeah, he was a victim of bad timing.
You know, he lost his entire gimmick at the time, and he made the most of it, you know, but it just didn't translate well. And it wasn't his fault. It was a pandemic. It was empty arenas, you know. But they still went forward with the story. But outside I don't remember what happened after that. Like, nothing that said, oh, I gotta watch this. It made me go back. Like, right now, Kyle O'Reilly debuts in AEW. Great move. I think he belongs there. I thought all three of those guys were going to get lost on the shuffle at some point in time anyway, without each other. If the power of the Undisputed Era wasn't going to last long to make their main roster debut, I knew they weren't going to survive very well. I think he made a great move. But now they've got me interested in what's going on, because now we got a new dynamic.
Yeah.
The Super Click with Kenny Omega out. Kenny Omega and the Bucks have always been the Elite. That was kind of the Wolfpack's, you know, Japanese version of in the Bullet Club. Everybody knows the NWO had the Wolfpack, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, 6-Pac. They were the little, you know, the clique inside the little group inside the group. The Elite, same thing with the Bullet Club. You know, I remember in the States, though, Adam Cole joins the Bullet Club and they became Super Click. There's been 3 iterations of 3-man teams with the Bucks, right? And everybody's got their favorite era of it. At one point, it was AJ and the Bucks. You know, when they did Ring of Honor stuff or New Japan stuff. or it was AJ and Kenny Omega. I mean, it was Kenny Omega and the Bucks. We know when, because Kenny Omega wasn't working the States, and then when AJ Styles kind of stayed further in Japan, when the Bucks came over, it was Adam Cole and the Young Bucks Super Click. And at one point, he was even Cody in the Bucks, So you got the Undisputed Era in NXT, right? And you got a reunion of the Super Click. Kenny Omega goes off. He's injured. Rest recovery. He's gonna come back a hero. So now we get the old school stuff from 2016, whenever it was, with 15 or whatever it was, when because and I enjoyed that run. I thought it was short.
Okay.
I thought it was short, but I enjoyed the Super Click. That was one of my favorite. Like I liked the 3-man group. It was always the Bucks and somebody, and I thought it just fit well. I didn't like it when Cody Rhodes was just getting in the mix of everything, and he was sort of Bullet Club or not Bullet Club. He was the Bret Hart of the group. Like you couldn't tell if he was in it or not. Like, are you Bullet Club or not? Or you just associate it. So we get a reunion of that. Bobby Fish comes in. Okay, cool. All right, now he's hanging out with the Super Click. Hey, it's like a little Undisputed Era, mixed in with some Super Click. I'm enjoying it. Nice dynamic. Kyle O'Reilly shows up. Now that we have a standoff. So we say, okay, does Adam Cole stay with the Super Click, or does he go with his most recent run with the original Undisputed Era? The dynamic got tricky. I was like, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. Like, I want to see that play out because it's kind of like we know who they are, They just fighting from putting their little hand gestures up.
Yeah, you can see.
Like, they kind of tease it like, oh, okay, yep. We already know about what was known as Red Dragon, but see, the Era have kind of erased that whole history because they did such a great job in NXT, right?
Yeah, they sold a lot of merch.
So Adam Cole's like, hey, I had nothing to do with this, man. And now the Bucks are looking like, yo, did he do this all this time? Like, was he just using us? And I'm like, man, the Bucks are so good at what they do. You know what I mean? So now we got a new story. In my mind, Kenny Omega is going to return. It's going to be Elite versus the original Undisputed Era, which I think is dope. You know what I mean? But like I said, the problem is there's never any meaningful long-term booking that evokes emotion as a wrestling fan to make you go, I gotta watch. Excuse me. I gotta keep watching this from now on.
Yep.
The Tribal Chief, something was going on every week from the moment that he got to that point, and it keeps us watching every week. Austin versus McMahon. It was, you want to see that dynamic in some way, shape, or form. McMahon and anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now you have McMahon and Austin Theory. I watch Raw to see what they're gonna get into every week. like I look forward to that part of the show because it's like the Austin Theory McMahon hour, because you try to figure out where is this going. Why is McMahon trying to mold this young talent? He's making it very clear this is a young talent, and he's wide-eyed, he's bushy-tailed, he doesn't know what this is really about. So let me see if I can get to him. And you just see old man McMahon just frustrated, like, oh boy, like it's an old school television dynamic. Like this odd couple. we hear this. We see this, like, we have an odd couple tag team. We see it every couple of years. We got it in Randy Orton and RK Bro, right?
Yeah.
Randy Orton takes a liking to Riddle and goes, you know what, this kid might be on something. We might be able to do something. But we have another odd couple dynamic with McMahon and Austin Theory. And you're like, okay, you got a really old McMahon and we got a really young Austin Theory. Austin Theory is turning into this. They're looking at him like this kid could be the future, and they're trying to figure out where do we go with him, and now you see him paired with McMahon every week. I'm like, okay, cool. Where is this going? It's enough to make me question and say, I wonder what's going to happen next with them. Like, what is Vince going to have him do next? It's something. It don't got to be major. It's just got to be something. I'm just not seeing enough of that in AEW for me. Not like Cody Rhodes. He gets in these really great programs and then he disappears.
Yeah. Why don't people like Cody? I've been trying to figure it out.
I just think they're mad at Cody because they feel like he's giving a lot of empty promises.
Oh, every time I turn on, he getting booed.
I just think people like wanted Cody to be all in, no pun intended, and he's playing both sides. You know, Cody wants to be the hero, but he's kind of like, no, I'm not here for that. It's about you guys, the fans, and it's like Cody's almost time for him to have a heel turn.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I just feel like the people feel betrayed by Cody a little bit. His father was not shy about being in that title picture. I don't care if he was the president of the company or not. If he was booking the show.
Because he knew he had to move needles.
It goes back to what I said before, though. I think they messed up by telling everybody publicly all their vice presidents. And that was kind of incorporated into their characters and storylines early on. I must have said something. I must have said something that's spectacular. I got the horns. And I think if I was a fan, I love Cody Rhodes. I think everything he does is great. For me personally, I don't see it enough. Even Triple H. Triple H was always had his hands in something, but he was always top guy. I'd rather get too much of somebody and say he's booking himself rather than not get enough of you and the show needs you. Vern Gagne wasn't shy about it. Owned the company, was champion all the time. AWA.
Do you think the internet plays a role in it?
Oh yeah, big time. But that's the world we live in, though. Mm-hmm. But then again, it doesn't though, because that's the same world that WWE lives in, and it doesn't seem to matter.
Right.
A superstar is a superstar. I think the opportunity to build superstars has been lost because they put guys on these pedestals and then they fizzle out. Lance Archer, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If Wardlow, I don't care how green he is, he could have been their Brock Lesnar. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
You protect him.
He could have been their Goldberg. Come out there and just get down on the wins every week. Let him do it for 6 months straight. Right? We became a fan of Goldberg. No.
Oh no. Oh man. So folks, the real Dwayne Allen has tuned out. I'm gonna run a commercial real quick while we wait.
Bobby Lashley winning, especially because they have no Monday Night Raw. I was like, they're not gonna do this. I'm like, they're not gonna let Miz. Now, mind you, this is WrestleMania season, so they're trying to throw us off the scent of what they plan to do for the Big Show. Yeah. Not the Big Show, but the Big Show as in WrestleMania.
The granddaddy of them all.
So I was assuming that Lashley would be involved somehow, but there's no way in the world that I thought they were actually going to pull the trigger because it was so close to WrestleMania. The way Drew lost with the Money in the Bank briefcase, which is completely legal, was the way.
All right, and we're back. Make sure y'all check out that episode. I can't even remember.
You don't remember what episode it was?
I really don't. It was Black Professional Wrestlers.
Oh yeah. Oh shoot, we should know what that was. I'm sorry, brothers and sisters.
Look, my head is foggy.
No, it's all good, man. We're gonna get through this, man. It's the end of the year. This is what it's about, man. This is we finally get all our ideas and thoughts out there so we can kind of just put it out there, lay it to rest, and get ready to go into the new year fresh. But what I was saying was that when you look back at AEW's progression, there's a lot of simple things, a lot of blueprint things that you could have said, okay. And it's like they start and they stop, they start and they stop, they start and they stop. And it's like this quick gratification. And there's no sacrifice of today for a better tomorrow. And I think that's one thing that WWE has always done that as fans, we haven't always liked. They sacrifice, okay, like I've heard Bruce Pritchard and Conrad talk about 96. Like they say 96 was an investment year. Yep. Like, yeah, this wasn't the year we were trying to break records and do stuff because the reality is we weren't in that place. The reality is we had to take that time to invest in other people, invest in young stars, so that 3 years from now, they're worth something. They may not be worth nothing now, but it had more Reigns in them. Reigns and Seth Rollins and all. Like, look at 2014 and look at now. You know what I mean? Those years weren't the greatest years, but you got to start somewhere. NXT has done it now.
I was going to go there. Let's go there. NXT 2.0.
NXT has we're transitioning great. This is how we're pros. NXT 2.0, they had to blow up the old format because that era of what made NXT popular is officially over. And it's all thanks to All Elite Wrestling. Mm-hmm. with another brand out there, another big company that's giving everybody big stages, a big performance, a big platform, like a mainstream platform, which hasn't been that way in a long time. Whether you like it or not, or how successful it is or not in regards to numbers, AEW is a big mainstream platform. You know, AEW snatching up talent, WWE snatching up talent. They're not leaving the superstars out there long enough for them to be superstars anymore. You know, if you work hard to become an independent, to become, you know, just a big deal professional wrestler, you want that contract, right? You appreciate being a top guy on the indies, but you're working to that point to get to one of these companies where you can make good money, feed your family, have a comfortable lifestyle, and do what you love to do at the end of the day. They're not leaving people out there anymore, you know? But now, we talked about it before. It seemed like NXT created a third brand because they needed more competition for themselves. They needed a reason to push. It's like, now that the AEW's out there, they're like, well, we don't need this anymore. Because guys they don't want people to come to NXT, make a name for themselves, and then take that name that they made for themselves and go elsewhere. And try to be superstars like Andrade and all them other guys. Now, the Sombra was a lucha libre legend. You know, he did a lot in his young age, and then of course what he did in New Japan, IWGP Intercontinental Champion. You know, then he comes to NXT as something completely different. You know, he became Andrade Cien Almas. You know, showed Andrade, really showed out. That main event with him and Johnny Takeover was amazing. That was supposed to be a throwaway because everybody was injured, but it was still just as big of a takeover as the rest of them. You know, and now they make those names for themselves and they want to go move on. Now they're like, well, we got to protect our assets a little bit more, so we're gonna assets. I didn't say the other word. I thought about the way did that come across right? I want to make it very clear. I said assets. So you got to come up with this new format that's different because the world is changing, right? Professional wrestling is kind of evolving at this point. Like AEW is now the cool wrestling brand. See, back it was NXT, right? Because you had all the indie darlings, you had a more cutting edge product. It was different. It had a grittier feel to it. NXT was a phenomenon, right? It was fizzling out due to the pandemic and a lot of changes that were going on. There had to be a shift with AEW because they blew the whole thing up. They said, let's go back to what we did originally. We got to start going after the athletes. We got to start going after fresh talent. We got to start starting from scratch with guys instead of bringing in people that have established brands because we can't depend on established brands because if they don't like what's going on, they don't got to re-sign with us. And all the exposure we've given them, they're just going to take it and then go elsewhere. So now they got to protect their assets a little bit more. And they've gone back to they've merged what they used to do or how they used to scout and develop people with what they were doing already. And you have NXT 2.0, and they've already made a handful of new stars that are household names. You know, the NXT that we saw is completely different from what we're watching now. And if you're stuck on that, you know, you may not like it or watch it as much, but there's no denying that. I'm like, man, they're successful again.
Braun Breaker.
How? You know what I mean? You know, you got like Braun Breaker, you got Gunnar Harlan, you got all these you got these a lot of this young talent that's like, wow, like we talked about NXT and what it used to be, but people are still watching NXT every week though. You know, you got Mandy Rose going back, kind of reinventing herself. You know, there's a lot of key elements to it. You know, there's a lot of pieces, and they're not waiting. They're not keeping people in development no more. Austin Theory gets pulled up. Rich Holland, you know, that's how it used to be. If you were ready, they just pulled you up and figured you out. Like
it's character based, you know. And what was the first or second show, the Wrestling Realm? Character matters. And now I'm digging back 10 years ago. You know, we talked about how character matters and how it's important. And NXT 2.0 is showing that.
And it still holds to this day because it's like you're giving people new reasons to embrace these new characters. And I feel like and there's still nobody that does that better than WWE. Shawn Michaels, Road Dogg, Triple H, Terry Taylor, William Regal, everybody they had back there. They know how to do it better than anybody else because AEW has just as much young talent, and yet they're all on those dark shows. They have not made me care about any. There's nothing about any of their young talent that makes me say, "Oh yeah, he's gonna make me." Like I said, one guy I'm heavy on. He's on one of them AEW dark shows because he's still young and green. Wardlow, I'm telling you, he is the guy. You know, I say, yo, if I was building a company, he would have Goldberg matches for like 6 months straight.
Mhm.
And I would have him do some type of offense to make the fans just like him because they look forward to see him do. We wanted to see probably 2 or 3 things when we saw Goldberg's matches back in the day. First couple matches, we were like, "Oh my gosh, what's up with this dude? He looks like Austin, and he's destroyed." You want to see a spear, you want to see him scream, you want to see a jackhammer, right? That's all you were worried about. You know, I would have Willow work a style like that, like give the fans what they want, whatever it may be, and just have a legit build up. And even if the first run is phony, you can have a run. You know, he's not in a bad spot now, and what they're doing is not wrong. Like he's fine. But I'm telling you, like that match with him and Cody Rhodes, one of my favorite cage matches I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm a big cage match guy, and in my mind, you can have a good cage match or a bad cage match because what makes it a good cage match is I remember it, and that match was memorable.
Yeah.
But it was for no reason. It was just Cody beef with MJF. Hey, you got to deal with his big heater. That was the end of it. But I'm like, man, you know, Lance Archer, I don't know what they got going on back there. I don't know who told that guy to do a moonsault and land on his neck. I don't know if his career's over or not. But he came in with him and Jake the Snake. Man, the mystique, the build.
Yeah.
Even when he was Lance Archer in New Japan, you never saw that version of him. He had never been even in a conversation of being a single star. You know, like, yeah, you didn't know who he was. When you saw him as the Murder Hawk, you were like, oh, okay, I get who this guy is. And then it didn't go anywhere. Like, he didn't win a television title.
Mm-hmm.
The TNT title, excuse me. I'm bored just talking about, you know, how bad the stuff has been. You know,
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I thought you had a sound effect for me.
Oh, nah, I was on transition.
You know, but, you know, I'll wrap this up and you can transition. But it's just like, you see the potential and you see the talent, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like, I just, what I see NXT doing is a different style of developmental that I'm not seeing from AEW that has just as much young stars.
Mm-hmm.
So,
speaking of developmental, man, Ring of Honor, you know, allegedly shutting the doors. You know, you wasn't there at the show where you was like the missing piece, right? So,
yeah.
you know, me, you know, obviously brother Hugh, Brandon and Blake, you know, and it was like when we started.
Ooh, that's the old clique.
Yeah, you know, like I said, when we started going, those were like we was always, you know, together in some way, shape, or form. You know, just want to give you a chance to reflect on that. You know, I did my reflections on, you know, how it was very vital and key to the wrestling realm in the early days for us connecting with the fans. You talk about hitting towns. You know, what's Ring of Honor? No, RCW. Yeah, RCW was the first show.
Yeah,
first couple shows, then Ring of Honor. But yeah, you know, I just want to give you a couple of minutes to reflect on that.
Oh man, I'm gonna get emotional with this one. Man, Ring of Honor was it as a wrestling fan, it changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
I had that was my first mainstream wrestling that was in my backyard. You know what I mean? Sure, we hit the indies you know, RCW in the early years. We were affiliated with the brand.
Mm-hmm.
But then, you know, when Sinclair Broadcasting kind of announced hey, we're buying Ring of Honor, we all knew what it was, but we weren't exposed to it. It was, you know, tape traders. But when they were showing it, I first saw Kevin Steen. I saw this chunky dude with a beard at a lawyer's office on TV, fussing about why he was going to sue Jim Cornette for illegally suspending him and something. So we go to the actual show. It just felt larger than life to me. It was my first really to me, that was mainstream wrestling to me.
Remember that day Jim Cornette walked out there and that reaction he had?
He marked out.
Autumn fans.
He marked out because it was standing room only. There was 5 or 6 rows of seats that were floor seats. And then there was 10 rows of people that was just standing behind it. And everyone, that was their first taping in Baltimore. And everybody was so happy to be there. And he was just like, man, I forgot how rowdy Baltimore can get. And he felt that energy. And we were part of that, man. And to see that live, every time we had an opportunity to go, and then eventually, you know, had an opportunity to work for and, you know, stuff like that, man. It was very key to what we did. It was kind of the driving force, man. It kept us in tune, honestly, to who was up and coming.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's how we stay locked in. You know, and we got a front row seat. We were in the rooms with Kevin Steen. You know, him. You know, meet and greet with children, and letting them hold the Ring of Honor championship, and Kyle O'Reilly. Remember Kyle O'Reilly was back there taking pictures, and somebody was giving him a hard time about his body. He's like, man, them Christmas cookies, I gotta get back on track. And I'm just like, man, these are guys that we're watching right now. Adam Cole, same thing, also very polite gentleman. I met him, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, I mean, I met AJ. I met AJ for the first time. Like, and I was AJ. This is when he was in his heyday. And I was like, I got to meet AJ, and I met him, and I helped this dude. Like, he's the only person that I brag about helping him carry his bags. Like, Jay Lethal left him at the top of the stadium, and I saw him. Like, I was walking out from the photography room with Blake, and I saw him, and I was like, holy crap. And I was playing it cool, man. I was like, and he had a couple bags. He's like, Jay, I'm trying. I said, you trying to get down there? Because when we had the pleasure of working the events, we always paid our respects. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like when you're there, it's all hands on deck. If they need help with anything and you're there, you're available, it's like, hey, if you need anything, come get me. And it was one of those type of situations, and it's just right place, right time. And I remember even when you were gone, when you were working up north, I was still go. Yeah. I watched Roderick Strong and Jay Lethal go 70 minutes. And I was sitting there with E-Rock. E-Rock was working for the company at the time. The parent company, Sinclair. And he was like, E-Rock goes, yo, we just got an Iron Man match as a main event. Where's you going to see this for $20? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Some of my favorite matches, I got introduced to the Bullet Club through Ring of Honor, the New Japan partnership. Legendary. I think that changed the game. I think that was pivotal because Ring of Honor gave us exposure to a lot of global superstars that we weren't familiar with.
And I was mad because in Connecticut, they didn't have it.
Brother.
There was no Sinclair broadcast. I could only get access to like YouTube or Daily Motion. Every
Sunday, come home from church, eat, Ring of Honor was on. Jay Lethal had one of the greatest runs in professional wrestling history. I've ever seen. Adam Cole, we watched so many superstars come and go. Kevin Steen.
Talk about how when nobody else was paying attention, you discovered the Viking Raiders.
War Machine. They were part of the. They had this thing in Ring of Honor called the. What was that group called? They called themselves the something.
The next. Oh shoot.
Something of honor.
Future of Honor.
Future of Honor. Yes, it was right. And that was all the guys that were training. And they were all going to be a top prospect tournament, man. I remember seeing Hanson and Rowe. They were in a match against each other as War Machine. And maybe like a week later, and I remember doing an article on those guys. And I said, these guys are going to be a big deal. And I said they were going to be future Ring of Honor champions. And this was probably a year and a half before it even happened. So you can imagine how late that was when they finally got the straps and they became one of the biggest tag teams in the world. I was backstage doing a backstage video of them when they were getting photos of them, Moose, a handful of other guys. Having those moments, like that's stake in the game. That's something I can say I was a part of. That's something I say I saw, and had the pleasure of really, just in enjoying professional wrestling of that quality during that time, up close and personal, man. Mm-hmm. Ring of Honor played a very, very special role in my life as an individual, as a man, as a wrestling fan. I mean, I still have all those DVDs I got, and I pray I can go back and get, like, there's a list of Ring of Honor DVDs I need to go back and get.
Oh, man.
Simply because they have matches upon matches upon matches of stuff that I was like, man, I need all this stuff. And it's greatly appreciated. Ring of Honor was the it, was the top independent draw for a long time before NXT took off. Anybody who was anybody, went through Ring of Honor. Anybody who was anybody in New Japan had to step foot in the stateside to be in Ring of Honor. So we saw Shinsuke up close and personal, Tanahashi up close and personal, Okada up close and personal, just so many people, so many superstars, Jay White. I call Jay White. I remember seeing him. I remember seeing Watanabe, who became Evil. Like those guys would come to Ring of Honor through their global excursions, and they was on Ring of Honor TV every week, and they didn't have characters. They were just regular. What they do is they do the excursions and they go back to New Japan, and then they're given a gimmick, or that's when they can kind of get into their character. You know, I saw the Switchblade coming a long time ago, man. It's just, you know, I'm going to miss it for now. I'm curious. You know, COO Joe Koff has made it very clear that it's not going out of business. It's not going away. They just got to rebrand. But like I
I think
said,
they'll be like one-offs. I don't think they'll have like really every week.
mhm.
You know, I think it'll be like, you know, kind of like the PWGs and the different companies where it's just like once a month.
We'll see, man. Like I say, even guys like Bandito and Roosh, you know,
Mhm.
some of those guys, a lot of that talent early on, you know, Josh the Goods Woods, John Silver, like those, you know, there's a lot of talent. Jonathan Gresham,
Mhm.
you know, there's a lot of talent that was there. You know, Shane Taylor, you know, that on
Yeah,
that
Shane
back end,
Taylor and
you know, Kenny King, our boy
Kenny
Rhett
King.
Titus, you know,
Yeah.
Lifers, the Briscoes.
Yeah.
These are people that sat down and talked with us and spoke with us, you know. Albert, you know what I mean? Like those are guys that played a major part in what the wrestling room is today, man. It made being a
Prince
wrestling fan.
Nana.
Prince Nana, yeah, he was in
Me and him.
AEW Dark. Me and him, like, remember we used to go nuts with me and him. Used to come out.
You ain't have to say that on the air.
No, I'm saying it.
Don't
I'm
gas her
saying
head
it.
up.
Nope. We used to go. I'm saying it now. There was two ladies in Ring of Honor that when their music hit, you just could. They were just such a breath of fresh air. You just couldn't wait. So when me and him came out with Prince Nana, or when Maria Canales came out, everybody just went nuts. And I remember we used to hear Prince Nana's music, and everybody used to just lose it.
Yep, because you knew what was about to happen.
What did they call themselves again? What was that group
The
called?
Embassy.
The Embassy. Yes, they were. And they come out with their hands above their heads like they was Egyptian pharaohs.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, man. And I tell you, remember Truth Martini, one of the best managers out there before
He
he
don't
broke
get.
his.
Yeah, he don't get his respect. I think he's safe. You know, so much happened last year.
Oh yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
A lot of people got canceled. I hope we're not talking about somebody that got canceled.
Right.
I remember he was gone before all that stuff came out because he broke his neck.
Okay. Yeah.
So he wasn't even on TV when all this stuff was going down.
Well,
Like
remember he brought Scarlett Bordeaux before, you know, way before she was with Karrion Kross.
He did. Yeah. There was so much talent that came through. Like you gotta like now as you brought that up, like let's look at the era of people that came out of Ring of Honor that eventually became superstars that I didn't think that had a chance to become superstars. Like I'll start first with Tommaso Ciampa. Shark was a huge Tommaso Ciampa. I'll tell
Shout
you.
out to Shark, man. Day one.
Day one, seriously, like Shark, like he was one of the guys that had Kevin Steen, one of his first interviews with Kevin Owens.
Mm-hmm. That's how I found out about Kevin Steen.
Shark. his interviews, you know. Tommaso Ciampa had that super blonde mohawk. I was like, everything that Tommaso Ciampa did in NXT, he tried to do it in Ring of Honor. It didn't have the Triple H sauce on it. Punishment Martinez, you know, who we know now as Damian Priest. You know, he was doing his devil gimmick with Sullivan. You know what I mean? You know, he was in that storyline with him and Carino and the Dark Sons and that secret society stuff they were doing. And I didn't think he was going to be a big deal. He ended up being a big. Adam Page, he was running. He was BJ Whitmer's young boy.
Oh wow!
Like, see that he was carrying around that little silver bucket. Like he was so young then. And I was like, man, if this guy ever gets a personality, he might be a big, because he had the right look, he had the right size, you know. So, you know, and of course he got tight with the Elite, and then like he was the young boy, like he was a guy. He was in all the lackey stuff, and it was just like, man, those are a lot of those guys that are like main players right now in mainstream professional wrestling, AEW, WWE, Wells, you know, it's like there's so much talent like that everywhere. I mean, just the imprints are all over Ring of Honor, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna miss it.
You gonna cry in the car?
Yeah, I probably cry in the car. You know what I mean? Because it's just like a lot of good memories, a lot of good guys. Came and went. Cedric Alexander and CNC Wrestling Factory. I can't forget
shout
the
out
brothers.
to Caprice Coleman.
Caprice Coleman, you know,
that was last year, 2020. Man, these 2 years have like ran into each other.
Yeah, they about to run into another one too.
Tell me about it. He was on the Wrestling Realms, Wrestling for the Culture. Make sure y'all check that out on the Wrestling for the Culture playlist. But you know, I want to transition. You brought up the brothers, man, and the sisters. Black wrestling taken a major step in WWE. Never before, when we first started this, right?
Yep.
We had an answer for everybody that that the Marks wanted to see as WWE champion. We had an answer why they wasn't, right? Not only did we
Yep.
get one, we
Uh-huh.
got two. And
Yeah.
and it's from one to the other too,
Yep.
Bobby Lashley becoming
Mhm.
WWE champion, having a show enough run, like
Yep.
a dominant run. And then only the way I love the way he lost the belt because even though it was money in the bank, he got caught slipping, right? And lose it to Big E. Big E still, kind of finding his way. I think it's different because he's not chasing for the title.
Mhm.
So we didn't see him chase, but I think that he's establishing himself as a top guy. So if he loses at WWE Day 1, he'll still be in that title picture for that
Right.
chase. But if he wins, obviously, he's good. But then you also look at the women, right?
Mhm.
From one black woman to another, Sasha Banks,
Yep.
into Bianca Belair, man.
Uh-huh.
It's just been something amazing to see, especially during the pandemic,
Yeah.
to see how, people can say what they want. It's the cool thing to say Raw is boring, in my opinion. But when you really think about it,
I don't think so. Not as of recently. It's been pretty good to me.
I think for the past 6 months,
Probably since the change in the draft and a lot of the shifts and stuff.
Yeah,
Kevin Owens and Big E.
And Kevin Owens is kind of like reestablishing himself as like he
Top
looks
guy.
invested. Yeah.
he's up there with Seth Rollins and all those guys, and I'm glad that he's in those conversations and he's in those matches and he's, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, that's probably should have been the first thing we said, as far as 2021 is concerned, man.
The black excellence, man. It's just been phenomenal.
They're allowed to be superstars, like they're themselves. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's so important in regards to representation for our community because it's like, man, they're not being looked at as black superstars, the black champions. They're just superstars.
I always say that diversity, right?
Yeah.
So, you can share your interests if you want to, but you're interested in things that the quote unquote average black person isn't, right? I'm interested in certain things that the average black person isn't.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen, and this is one of the things I've seen at Jobber Slam,
Mm-hmm.
was you saw a very diverse group of black people.
Yes.
We're not all the same. And we're starting to see that reflection in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the people I really give props to is Xavier Woods, because
Yes.
here he was being himself, and being the anchor for New Day,
right,
and getting that established, which I've always said, like when Kofi won, I said if Big E gets the championship, I always thought Xavier Woods could be somebody who will also hold the title because he's a brilliant guy and he's somebody you would want representing your company.
right.
And looking at him as King of the Ring, he's doing some amazing stuff.
Yeah,
because that's
music now.
Yeah, that's hard to do. When you win the King of the Ring, it's not like back in the day, because you got more wrestling. So before you had Owen Hart once a week, right? So you just was excited because Owen was coming out there with the crown.
Right.
But Xavier Woods is doing stuff on social media and the whole 9.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's been something to see. Shout out to the people who created the hashtag Black Wrestling Draws that was trending
mm-hmm.
this past year. And then you're starting to see it on the indies. Like a brother I met him at Jobber Slam by the name Billy Dixon. Having a promotion. You got a lot of black owners. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Marcello from D-Line, the owner of CCW Action, all women's fan. And just to seeing black people in the space, not only in the ring, but also behind the scenes.
Nah, man, it's just like I said, I know that with a ever-changing climate, man, it's always encouraging to see stuff like that. It's always about seeing first of all, seeing opportunity, and then watching them excel at that opportunity. And prove their worth, that they can, hang with anybody else in those positions. And that's the part that's just like, man, I couldn't be more proud. And I'm always overly critical of our folks.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to be a wrestler. So my thing is always, if you're not better than me, you gotta show me why I can't live up to what you know. Like if I feel like I can do a better job than you, and I feel like the two top black wrestlers of all time is Booker T and me. In my head, you know what I mean?
Oh, The Rock.
Okay, I apologize. The Rock, Booker T, me. That was wrong with me. You're right. That so that's how I look at it, because it's like, man, we all we want. I said, nah, but Black people, we have always had to be better than average, because the way we've been systematically looked at in situations we've been put in, where it's just a fact, where you can't be regular. You have to perform at a higher standard just to be respected in the space that you already rightfully deserve to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's not a hot take. It's just the truth.
Look at us.
Absolutely. So to see those superstars, these young superstars, rising to that occasion, because we've seen so many Black superstars come and go, but we haven't seen many that we have seen really rise to and they've been disappointments for a lot of us, but to see that, it only took one, like I said, I know we were talking about Black WWE champions specifically, and we were so elated with Kofi, but we were like, well, shoot, we've had plenty of Black women's world champions. Let's not negate those runs, and they were successful runs.
Shout out to Jazz.
I'm about to say Jazz. Like, she's probably, I don't know any other. She's got to be the most dominant African American female wrestler I've ever seen. There may have been others,
Hey, Jazz like my work.
And she was, I mean, when I say dominant, she was fearless. She was strong. She was beautiful. Like, she was she was a different looking Black woman in regards to what we were used to seeing in regards to how they were displaying women, and she embraced it. And that's where her beauty came from,
It's crazy, because if she was here now, like in WWE now, she'd be dominant,
Absolutely, yeah.
They wasn't ready to go there in 2003, 2004.
What the world wasn't, you know what I mean? Which is understandable, you know what I mean? Because it's funny, because her husband was in a controversial gimmick with Teddy Long.
The beat up white boy challenge.
Yeah.
White boy beat them. I said a shout out to her, because she serves as like a mentor to Amber. And I put together like Amber's media kit. So she was like, "Oh, yo, Jazz said this look good." I'm like, "Wait, what?" She's like, "Oh yeah, she said that a while ago. I thought I told you." I'm like, "Hold up, Jazz said my work looked good?" And she was like, "Yeah." I was like, so anytime you can get put over by a legend, you embrace it. Especially somebody who I would love to see get in the WWE Hall of Fame. Not sure if she will.
Right.
But like, just looking at like even the rise of Bianca Belair, she has become a megastar. She's becoming a megastar.
I told everybody that they worried about her winning that belt. I said, bro, y'all don't understand the long term stuff of what she's getting so much more.
That's a sensitive subject. I've even tried to explain to people. They're like, yeah, don't go there. I was like, I get why you was upset. Who was it? But if you listen to her when she was talking to Peter Rosenberg, she talked about it. She didn't say these words, but with all the outgoing love that came with that, it was kind of like the best thing, because so many people poured out love to her on social media. Like, when she got to the back, I think she said her mother or somebody said, "You see what like social media is hot for you right now," and sometimes that's what you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what better person than Becky, other than Charlotte, to do that, to be in that spot? And I think it's
absolutely.
I think it's key for her. Now she's making a star in Dewdrop, which has been, that's been a fun program to watch.
Like, that's when you're made, when you're already making other people.
I mean, she's been like running. Like, when you really look at her, 2 years ago she was in NXT wrestling. Challenges Shayna Baszler for the women's championship, and coming up short after she was undefeated for so long. And now she's on Raw, just being the EST. Like, you go in the stores, you're seeing toys of her, shirts, they selling the little hair things. Like, you talk about a needle mover for the women, she's a needle mover.
And that's the whole point. That's what it's about at the end of the day. Like, sure, it's about you winning the championship, but now you are one of the people they trust to help build other superstars. Like, you're a player now. You know what I mean? And that's necessary for the long-term build. You know what I mean? And I think there's so much more into that because you have that fan outpouring. But
Look, let me ask you this, because
yes.
you have some of the best sports mind I know, right? On a basketball team, if you got a player
Mhm.
who may not play 20 minutes, but you could trust him to develop your young guys, won't there always be a spot for him on the roster?
Every on every team.
Mm-hmm.
On pros and in college and high school,
Mm-hmm.
every coach will easily take that because it makes the coach's job that much more easier. You know what I mean? Because those players end up turning into coaches. There's places for guys like that on your roster that may, like you said, they may be just as good or talented, but they just may not be room for them at the top right now.
Is that why Juwan Howard lasted so long in the league?
Absolutely. And
And
that's why he's
what's his name?
coaching. And that's
Yeah, what's
exactly
my
why he's
dude's name?
coaching.
Haslam.
Yeah, Udonis has him. That's what he's that good at it. They're like, man, we'll pay you another year just to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's an extension of the coach. He is that gap just in case they can't get through the players. He's like a player's coach.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He's older. His wisdom has that much value and they're saying the wisdom that you bring to the situation makes our team better. And it's valued. Like they're paying it, man. He ain't played a minute. He's getting paid though.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely. Black wrestling draws.
Did you have you been paying attention to Hook?
No.
I haven't either. I pay a little bit, I think with him it's less is more. What I do like, I'm gonna pay attention to some more, but yeah, watching him, I think they obviously they believe they can make him into a prime time player, no pun intended.
I know he has caught the attention of a lot of people, and I know they're trying to find their next thing, but it's like y'all keep signing other people. Where do you leave these people?
Mm-hmm.
These are your future stars, but they're not getting any rub.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Ooh. But yeah, anything else? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, man. 2021 is we can sit here all day. You know what I mean? It's been a long year. So many things have happened. You know what I mean? But like I said, we've had a good run in regards to our show. We've had a good run as far as professional wrestling, and I think the best is yet to come, man. I'm looking forward to what's next and just continue to grow and expand and just keep enjoying what we do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the things I'm looking forward to. Like we said, just getting back out there, connecting with the community again. Getting back to wrestling show. We was me, Hugh, and Britt Waters, Dr. D. We was at C3W a couple weeks ago. Or was that last week? We had a good time. Talking to Richie Fingers and oh my goodness, I forgot the other dude's name. Just getting that opportunity to talk to those guys, and it's always an honor and pleasure when you can see some of the people that's working behind the scenes. So you can see. Hold on. I want to make sure I get this guy's name right.
Mm-hmm. Look at you, right? Call it brother spot. Some names not even him.
Nah, I just no, it wasn't even that. It's just I like I told you, you know how my brain is right now. Yeah, Casino Hayes.
There you go.
Yeah. So shout out to them. They was definitely appreciative what the Wrealm was doing. Shout out to Hugh doing his photos.
Hugh did it.
Yeah, man. He was out there taking pictures of everybody, man. And now, he uses graphics, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. I think 2021 as a year has been, it's been very insightful. It's been fun. Like I said, I mean, we've seen great things happen in WWE, AEW, changes in NXT, women's wrestling across the board. We've seen a resurgence of a lot of independent product. With a lot of released WWE stars kind of making a name for themselves and calling their own shots a little bit.
Yeah.
It's been a long year. It's been an eventful year. And thankful that we're still here.
I know one thing. I want a video game next year.
Okay.
This says 2019.
I don't
and that was horrible.
I don't know. Like all the released superstars, you're not gonna have nobody on it. But hey,
I know everybody with DLC.
Yeah. So, but like I said, hey man, we could spell out. It's so much happened that we don't even have time to get into. But like I said, we got plenty to talk about, and not like we go anywhere. So,
nope. All right. Well, yeah. This vaccine's still winning. I'm about to go tap out the way Shawn Michaels should have tapped out at Survivor Series 97. Did you see the pants?
I did see the pants. Yep.
I'm tempted. I'm not supposed to like Shawn Michaels, but those pants be rocking and they comfortable.
Is your wife going to allow you to wear those pants?
Do what I want. Do what I want. But folks, until the next time, we appreciate y'all. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy holidays. The ones y'all celebrate that escape my brain right now. Y'all know the deal. Y'all can buy a t-shirt. www.wrestlingrealm.com. $5 off if you put WW now 12.25. Sale lasts for the next 2 days. Shout out to everybody that's bought a t-shirt. Until the next time, too sweet.
Too sweet. Yep.
Houston, we have a problem.
There you go again.